Hello, hello. I'm back again. Welcome back. We've got our green monster here on the bench. We also have this little generator here. You may have seen the video on this generator from last year where I repaired this carburetor because the seat was leaking and polished the seat, got it up and running again. But now we've got another problem with it, but we'll go into that in a minute. Just want to show you guys what I was working on earlier today. If you saw my short I put up yesterday about this saw, I think it was yesterday, last night maybe. Anyway, this poor green monster here, he's clean now. Look how clean this is. I didn't realize how big all these parts were and all this much space was here because it was full of sawdust. And this cover here was completely full of sawdust, and the flywheel was rubbing on that junk that all the sawdust was in here. I didn't realize how big these slots were to let the air go in around from the flywheel. So this thing wasn't breathing at all. It wasn't getting any cool air in around it. You know, that cylinder wasn't getting all the cool air it needs. There's even a hole that was pretty much clogged in the casing here. You can see this hole here. Well, that allows more air to come up and around the back behind this cylinder. The flywheel's all caked with crud. The coil was all caked with crud. And something you couldn't even see that was happening with this is the flywheel was actually rubbing against the coil. And I saw this in the other one I had these too. The hole was actually stripped out. I had to put a different screw in the plastic to lock that coil into place. And it was kind of a bummer, but this was actually just the coil was just a little bit loose over time. Good vibration, probably some heat, and the holes aren't stripped out yet, which is good. So I just managed to pull that coil back to where it's supposed to go and tighten those two screws down in the casing in the plastic there. That's good. So this is coming along nicely now that it's clean enough that I can actually see everything. So we'll get to this more on this in another video. So back to the generator. The problem with this little generator now, it's been sitting for quite a while, is somewhere in this float is a small hairline crack. And I don't know if you can see, if we can get that to focus on that or not. I might have to flip the camera around. Stand by, we'll flip the camera around. So you can see that's wet with fuel in there. And if you flip this around, well, if you can see what's fuel is left inside there, you go. You can see here, we'll grab a screwdriver and point at that. So if you look right down in here, there's a whole bunch of fuel floating around inside this float. So my plan is, you see we have a container full of super glue here, got a small drill bit here. I'm going to drill a small hole in the top of this float. So this float has to sit this way to go up. So we want to drill a hole in the top of this float somewhere up here, maybe. Right, maybe that spot right there, because there's less fuel up there. We're going to drill a little hole with that small drill bit. We're going to take some compressed air and gently blow some air through that hole to see if we can find where the crack is. So we'll drill a hole here. And I know the crack is here somewhere and around here. So we'll just put a little tiny bit, we'll put the air nozzle on low air pressure, and we will blow some air through here and see where the crack is. And we'll super glue this hole shut and this crack shut, and hopefully that fixes the whole float. And I may weep some super glue once I clean it all up, brake clean of course, and get it dry. I may weep some super glue in around the seams here and all the way around here. So let me put the drill in the impact, and then we'll grab the compressed air and we'll see what we get. Stand by. Now this is something like how I do repair brass floats when I don't have a replacement float, because you can't get one anymore. They're a little bit easier because you can solder them over. So what I do is I take the soldering iron and desolder the hole in them, then heat them up and blow all the junk out. So I drilled Mr. Little hole like that. Now let's put Mr. Yeah, I can see where that bottom of that by my thumb. Use the other nozzle to help better for this. Well, here's the deal. I blew a little air through here, and I looked over here where I had the fuel coming out, and we found a little hole, which kind of looks like it's there from the factory, but it's hard to say. So I had been heating this up to get this float set to the right level. So I'm wondering if maybe a little bit of extra heat there made that hole happen. So we'll just take that, we'll clean that hole up a little bit with some Scotch-Brite and some brake clean. Same thing with this hole, and we'll super glue both of those shut. So rough that up a hair. So super glue, in case you didn't know, is impervious to gasoline. So that's why we use it. Makes these kind of repairs pretty easy. I fixed all kinds of things with that for fuel related things over the years. It's great. Here we go. We got Mr. Super Glue. I like these little tubes. Sometimes you buy them in different brands and things, but most super glue is super glue, right? So the reason why I like these little tubes is because you can, when they dry up, you don't have to worry about wasting a whole big tube. Here we go. A little super glue over that hole, just fixed it right up. There we go. We'll let that cure for a while and we'll come back. Here's something a little interesting. I could not get that super glue to dry in that hole quick enough to seal it up, so I put a little bit of baking soda on the super glue, which made it cure instantaneously. Same thing, just a little bit, tiny bit on this hole here, just to make sure that it was cured. And there we go, one repaired float. Let me see if we can get this float back up in there with our float pin. The needle is already in there, so it should be as simple as taking this, putting that in place. I'm gonna flip it upside down, just like this. Ta-da! It's quite often on a lot of machines, you just flip it up, gain access to where the bowl is, and if you can get the pin out, you can get jets out and clean carburetors up if they're not too bad, just like this. Get that pin back in his hole. Don't be in Butterfingers. And you see I got that pin back in there. Let's put that float bowl back on and hope for the best. Make sure we can reach in there with my screwdriver. In case I need to drain the bowl, so I got that right on the mark. There we go, 10mm socket, back in the running. So I've got Mr. Generator back on his feet. We've got the fuel switched on the petcock here, and what I've done is I've opened up the drain screw on the float bowl, made sure that the float bowl is getting fuel, make sure I didn't jam up the seat and the needle inside there. Sometimes if you're pushing on things, you can jam that needle up inside the seat and it'll stick. So right now, I think we're doing okay. Next, we go get the cover and put it on the front, make sure that's okay. Not bad for a cheap investment of $50 years ago. There's something just to run a few little things. Thanks everyone for joining me on this repair of this little generator and an update on Mr. Green Monster chainsaw down there. Remember, if you like what you see, give a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe for more, and we'll see you on the next one. Rock on.